Growing up here in Provo, Utah, my dad was the men's gymnastics coach here at BYU.
We would have the opportunity to bring our family into the gym and get them exposed and let them play and have fun. And they were raised in the gymnastics world.
Wayne coached 8 years at BYU. I thought we would be there forever, because Wayne was doing very well and we loved it there. And then all of a sudden he knew he needed to do something different.
My father decided to retire from coaching and go back to become a doctor. When he graduated medical school, he had to pick a location that had a good program for him, but also provided a good opportunity for both boys and girls gymnastics. So there were very few places in the country that would allow that, and Oklahoma just fit the bill perfectly.
My early memories of Gard were a really determined kid that, wanted to follow in the footsteps of his father, who had been an Olympian. But we were recruiting him pretty heavily, and BYU was as well.
Some of the factors that took into play of that decision of to come to BYU was, there was a family legacy. It was also the environment. It was a place where I knew I could thrive, not only athletically, but academically, and most importantly, I think spiritually. After visiting both campuses and talking with my parents, a lot of prayer, decided to leave Oklahoma and leave ultimately Mark to come to BYU to play here.
Gard was not your typical gymnast. He was very dedicated. Dating someone like that was a little hard. He told me that he had priorities in his life. The first priority was his membership in the church. And then the second thing was gymnastics, that he was committed to his sport and to his goals. And he said number 3 came his social life.
The road to those goals maybe started off pretty rocky. I remember going to my first senior national competition shortly after arriving and found myself back in the late 30 rankings. In fact, the following summer, I wanted to go to the national championships, and my coach at the time told me no. I didn't like that answer very much. I sat down with Coach and told him, "Don't tell me no, Coach. Tell me what I need to do to be ready to go." I went back to that national competition, and I had jumped, into the top 10. So from 36 to 10 was my jump. That was a pretty big jump for me. And then later on that next summer, ended up making my first senior national team. Entering in my senior year, I had a teammate, Courtney Bramwell, who was a ring national champion. I was the current vault national champion. We felt really good about our chances.
I remember getting the phone call from him one evening, and he just said something terrible has happened. And I just was like, what could this possibly be? And he said, they just announced that they're going to drop the men's gymnastics team.
So the announcement was made in that room 149 of the Smithfield House, where the athletic director came in, sat us all down, and told us that this would be the final year of men's gymnastics for BYU. And there was no room for questions. There was no room for discussion. The decision had to be made, and that was the decision. And it honestly felt like the world had just fallen out from underneath me.
He was not planning to be done after his NCAA career. He was wanting to continue to train, and he felt like the rug got pulled out from under him and wasn't sure what he was going to do, how he was going to keep working towards his goal of making an Olympic team. And then his former coach, Mark Williams, stepped in and really gave him an opportunity where he thought a door had been shut.
I had a conversation with Gard about whether he wanted to continue after college. He had planned on continuing to just train at BYU, but that wasn't going to be an option. And I gave him an opportunity to come back to Oklahoma and be my second assistant coach and continue to train with us. And he kind of jumped at that, was able to move and finish doing his undergraduate work at BYU while training with my team at Oklahoma and also coaching.
and ended up going and competing well at the national championships in 2001 and making my first world championship team, where we got to go and compete for Team USA and win a silver medal. And ultimately found myself making the 2004 Olympic team.
In 2010, we reached out to Gard in about July for the upcoming Hall of Fame and asked him if he would be willing to be inducted.
I was a little bit surprised, taken back, because I was on the men's gymnastics team. Why are you calling me? I didn't think BYU cared about gymnasts, men gymnasts at that.
He was a little apprehensive just because of his feelings about the program, but it was pivotal. It changed his whole feelings towards BYU, him coming and us reaching out to him saying, hey, we do value you.
I really maybe gained perspective that my time at BYU, while it maybe didn't end the way I wanted it to end, I was taken care of. I had a great education. I met my wife. My testimony of the Church of Jesus Christ was strengthened and supported while I was here. So maybe 10 years, some time, I'd gained some perspective of what BYU was, and that maybe it's okay to like BYU again.
I remember the night Gard was sitting on our bed, and he said, I need to tell you something. And I could tell it was something big. So I sat down on the bed next to him, and he said, BYU called me and said they're looking for a women's gymnastics coach. And he said, I told them I'm interested. It was super exciting for me, number one, that opportunity would come available, and number two, that Gard was ready to go back to BYU.
One thing I hung on my wall was a plaque that I got when I was a senior in college, naming my team Men's Team of the Year. And it's interesting that I would hang that on the wall because that was the year they cut my program. It's not a moment of sadness or bitterness. It's more of a reminder to let things go. Maybe the end of my BYU career didn't end the way I was planning it to end, but all said and done, I think looking back, when you hold on to grudges, when you hold on to anger and bitterness, look, it's not affecting BYU. It's not affecting the people you have those feelings towards. Who was it really affecting? And I think it was affecting me. So what I'm learning from this is let things go, because who is it really affecting? And the more we can do that, I think the better off we'll be.